Well, hello and welcome to that favorite hour of the day where you just sit back and we bring the issues and discuss it. And what big issue is in town other than 100 days of the Akufo-Addo presidency or governance, if I may say? Well, many years ago, some American presidents set a precedence that in 100 days I will achieve X, Y, Z, and it's become a precedent across all governance where they think that after 100 days they need to come and do the first account to the people of the achievement. Now, even though the NPP is saying we did not promise anything in 100 days, it's still sort of pressurized to come out and say, look, in 100 days we've done X, Y, Z, and indeed they've touted 103 achievements. And, the jokes are going around: one district, one factory, one day, one achievement. And well, the opposition is saying that, listen, everything that you have said is absolutely untrue, it's false, it's rubbish, and indeed the country is retrogressing. Akufo-Addo is bringing hardship. Majority is saying that, listen, this is the best since sliced bread. No government has ever achieved such feat or such mileage in 100 days. But then what happens if you're Ghanaian? As I always ask, if you're NDC, you know it's rubbish. If you're MPP, you know it's brilliant. But what happens if you're Ghanaian? What do you think about it? And that's the discourse that sometimes we try to find, that aside all the politics, what are the facts on the ground? My big question today is it the same book with different chapters, or is it a totally different book? My name is Anan Sakwa the Fourth, Akwemweduma Sahiri, and your favorite TV show host. When I come back, I'll introduce my guest and we'll find out what the true story is.
Even though we've not made any 100-day promises, I am here to say that we can point to some significant achievements in these last 100 days. Specifically, I'm going to mention 103 achievements of this government in this last 100 days. We inherited a difficult economic situation. You had a situation where the fiscal or the finances of government was in very bad shape. But we had made promises to the people of Ghana. We're going to reduce taxes. We're going to restore teacher training allowances. We're going to restore nursing training allowances, bring in one district, one factory, one village, one dam. We had $1 million for each constituency. And at the same time, we said that we were going to bring down the fiscal deficit and increase government revenue. Well, many people thought this was an impossible task. A lot of economists wondered, how are you going to do all these things? But this was the background against which we went into the budget discussions for 2017. And thankfully, by the grace of God, we have been able to accomplish what many people thought was impossible.
The cost of living has inched up significantly, making life unbearable for many Ghanaians, even in these early days. Transport fares have not been spared. A 15% increase has been slapped on all fares of all destinations, and this has simultaneously triggered further increases in all goods and services. We are fully aware that it is early days yet, but this should remind government that at a time when they appear more interested in bloating the size of government and unleashing violence on innocent citizens and political opponents, economic realities are gnawing hard at the ordinary Ghanaian. What Ghanaians expect is a lowering of the spiraling cost of living in consonance with the promises made to them. Another major promise that President Akufo-Addo has broken is his failed promise to Ghanaian contractors. On 31st October 2016, he promised the contractors that he will pay all debts owed them within the first 100 days of his ascension to the presidency. It has been 100 days and still counting. And Ghanaian contractors are asking, Nana, Nasikanu Wahi.
419.
Nana, where is the money you promised?
419.
Ladies and gentlemen, where is the money? What has become of this promise? In the last 100 days, the Akufo-Addo government has been badly exposed with regards to the funding of their poorly conceived campaign promises. It has become clear that when they evaded critical questions about how they were going to fund the many lofty promises made to Ghanaians, they were in fact exhibiting cluelessness. Dr. Bawumia must be told in every clear terms that Ghanaians were expecting of him to explain why, after 100 days, there is not a single dam or a single factory project that has commenced in any of the 216 districts, and why instead we are being treated to one region, one vigilante group. I wish to state plainly that what the president has done is far from protecting the purse. It constitutes a direct raid on the economy of the taxpayer. Maintaining the salaries and creature comforts for this large number army of ministers will severely burden the poor taxpayer. This appointment relates into 110 bungalows, 110 saloon cars, 110 V8 Toyota Land Cruisers, 110 bodyguards, 220 police guards in their bungalows, and on and on and on. More importantly, it represents a direct breach of his pledge to cut waste in public expenditure. He has acted in a way that will introduce more waste in government finances. Simply put, President Akufo-Addo has been wasteful and has not been candid with Ghanaians. Mr. President, prune down your 110 ministers now.
And with me in the studio is Mr. Richard Kwashiga, Honorable Member of Parliament for Keita. Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good, thanks for you to join us. 100 days is the issue on the table, and obviously, the minorities also issued a statement. Now, this is what confuses Ghanaians, because here we are with a statement saying, now listen, we've done 103 achievements in 100 days, and therefore go home and clap for us. Then the opposition caps us and say, no, forget it. It's absolute waste of time, just propaganda, forget it. So it leaves the average Ghanaian thinking, who's being factual? Well, do I go home to be happy, or do I go home to be sad? But I'll hear your personal 100-day assessment, and then what the average Ghanaian should feel, whether sad or happy.
Well, thank you very much, Nana, and I will be speaking this evening as a Ghanaian.
I'll be very
not
glad.
Necessarily an NDC minority member of parliament, and clearly from my own assessment, and I know in your heart of hearts you will admit that this 100 days of the Akufo-Addo-led government has been a lackluster one, very disappointing, and it's had created panic, not just within the presence of Ghana, but further afield. On the international front, we have had the United Nations, stepping in to caution our president, to manage the state of ship very well. In that, right from the very day that Nana Akufo-Addo took over, we saw vigilante groups that they trained when they were in opposition, with the pretext of not having much faith in the security services. And these people had gone on the rampage and creating mayhem. There was, fear and panic all over this country, and Ghanaians are still very worried, with the president doing very little, as it were, to rein them in. But Nana, clearly, a number of things have happened within these 100 days. Now we hear the vice president telling us that they never promised to achieve anything in 100 days. But clearly, contractors were promised that within 100 days, all monies owed them would be paid. And this is common knowledge. And so if we have a vice president who is beginning to run on both sides of his mouth, then it is worrying. We also know too well that the issue of DKM, they were promised that in 100 days, they were going to address this issue of DKM, God is love, etc. So there cannot be this pretense that, look, we never promised anything in 100 days. Meanwhile,
DKM, there was a promise on 100 days?
Of course, yes. Nana Akufo-Addo, on his campaign tour, did indicate that they would ensure that within 100 days, within 3 months of taking over the reins of governance, they would deal with that issue to make them happy. But have they achieved that? Now, what is most shocking?
Before you go on, just on two occasions, with the contractors, those who are not being paid are those who have got questionable certificates or being investigated. Again, with DKM, there are still some claims that has to be investigated, but those that are clean slate ones have been paid.
Nana, let's face it. These are some excuses that to be adduced, as it were, to justify the inability to, make do with these promises that were made. Now, let's take the issue of transport fares. Ghanaians never imagined, the mouth-watering promises that were made were such convincing that Ghanaians today never imagined that transport fares could be increased across board by 15%. Now, so when you are boasting about reducing taxes on domestic flights, are you therefore, working in the interest of a certain class of people or the generality of the Ghanaian people? Again, also, the manner in which Nana Akufo-Addo and his party positioned themselves, the understanding and the impression that was created was that young people were suddenly going to get jobs. But as we speak today, what is happening is an issue of getting rid of people who are legitimately employed under the guise of, or the pretext of, they belonging to a certain political party, or they got their jobs as a result of a favor from a political party, and you are replacing them with people who are pro-NPP. I mean, robbing somebody of his job in order to reward a supporter of your political party. That does not bode well for us as a nation. As I speak to you, when you go to GPHA, there is some nasty situation going on in there, where clearly there's a PNDC law, 603, which determines how directors of ports, that's Temaport and Takoradi Port, should be engaged. Now you are trying to use the back door to pressurize people who were in these offices, to resign in order for you to put in some other people. And this exactly is the kind of things that have happened within these 100 days. Within these 100 days, Nana, we have seen a plethora of disregard for our laws. Today, the NPP that said they were not going to borrow that monies were within the confines of this nation in order to do the kind of things that they claimed they were going to do. $1 million to one constituency, one district, one factory, one dam, one village. What are we seeing? They have already gone borrowing. And they are not borrowing following the laid-down procedures, but they are using, very shady approach to borrowing. We all know the story that is actually making the rounds about the Eurobond, $2.25 billion dollars that a friend of the finance minister, you know.
Richard, let me see. I'm sure nobody would say that the NPP has a clean slate or is running perfectly, but the way the minority approaches it, it makes the discerning listener then says, well, let me shut off because you're coming from this side, you're bastardizing everything.
Not at all.
Let me take you back to the contractors issue. There are some contractors who we are told have issued certificates and have even done the work. There are some who have started work with no certificate or no contract. If the government has promised that, look, in 100 days I'll pay everybody, would the opposition say yes? Whether it's right or wrong, go ahead and pay, or should those that are shady, look, hold on, let me investigate? I mean, so that if you then come up and say, well, we don't care, you said you pay everybody, so I expect you to pay everybody.
No, that's what we're saying, Nana. Not at all. You see, now, give us the evidence of contractors that are not in good standing, that ought not to be paid. Okay? So, clearly, we must be getting some data from the government. You know, if you're saying that some contractors, you know, have presented certificates when work have not been done, justify it. Okay, but if you just come out in the public and say it, that is spin doctrine, you know, and I think that the vice president especially, you know, must recognize the fact that he's no more, you know, a flag bearer where spin doctrine can be the order of the day. He is now the vice president of the Republic of Ghana. And I'm saddened that he's still, you know, within a certain motion, you know, trying to twist facts, you know, to tickle himself and laugh. I mean, we've gone past that. But, you know, let me tell you something that will shock you, Nana. This issue about the 2.5 billion domestic bond, you know, first of all, the Attorney General had to an extent indicated that yes, the enterprise group that was mentioned and which is been making the rounds, which is connected to Honorable Trevor, you know, and the gentleman who, the company that has invested this money, you know, she had admitted that yes, she has some connection, except that she worked with Enterprise Life. And again, her resignation was on 1st April. When did she become a Minister of State? I think that the Attorney General should be resigning by this time. So should be the case for the Minister of Finance. Now, you see, apart from the whole process not being shrouded in secrecy, not transparent, all this business was done in one day, you know, which people are having concerns about, it's a clear breach of the law. Others are saying that it's only when it is an international entity that we're dealing with, then we can actually talk of breaching the law. Yes, that is what the Constitution says. But it was in that same spirit that the Parliament of Ghana, 2016, passed the Public Financial Management Act. And now it is no longer just about international borrowing, but it is about borrowing in general. If you permit me, let me just quote. 56.1, page 36 of this bill says that approval of Parliament of terms and conditions of government borrowing. The terms and conditions of all government borrowing shall be laid before Parliament and shall not come into operation unless the terms and conditions are approved by a resolution of Parliament in accordance with Article 181 of the Constitution. And it goes on, for the purpose of subsection 1, Parliament may from time to time, by resolution, approve standard terms and conditions for government borrowings, including the following, and then it goes on and on. So clearly,
and this one did not come to Parliament.
It never came to Parliament, you know, and it was all done on 3rd of April, when Parliament had gone on recess. Okay, and then the Attorney General resigned from Enterprise Life on the 1st of April. Now, when she was asked if she knew anything about this deal, She claimed no. Meanwhile, you are the Attorney General. And such colossal borrowings by government, it must be known by the Attorney General. The Attorney General must be involved. But Madame Gloria Akufo claims on CTFM this evening that she had no clue, and she's not even aware that any such transaction had gone on. Why then must she remain in office?
Let me acknowledge Perry Okujeto, Deputy Minister for Information. Perry, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And hold on for me just a second. We're going to be right back.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for staying. On the phone, I have Perry Okujeto, who's a Deputy Minister for Information. In studio, I have Richard Kwashiga, Honorable Member of Parliament for Keita. And actually, let me get Perry to, also have a bite of this cherry. Hello, Perry.
Hi, Nana.
Yes, well, long time, and congratulations, and Happy
Thank
New Year
you.
and all that. Tells you how long I've seen you.
Yeah.
So let me add all that. But while I'm out,
Am I permitted to say hi to my
yes,
brother?
you're
Hi, Perry.
Hi, Richard.
Good to hear you. And
Plenty propaganda.
oh no! I think I've congratulated you already. but I don't mind doing it again. Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you.
And belated New Year.
Thank you
Belated
as well.
Easter, rather.
Yeah.
Very well. The minority of yours, I'm sure you've heard many of their sessions, but they are not very pleased with your achievements. 103 achievements. Number one, you said you didn't make any promise in 100 days, but you promised to pay contractors in 100 days. You promised to settle DKM in 100 days, which have not been done. Transport fares are, spiraling, high, and you've looked after the bourgeoisie and reduced aeroplane fares and increased trotro fares. So these are some of the charges that are being, levied at you. There's so many, so try and do it brief, and then we'll look at the AG and the issue of conflict of interest and this money issue, because that seems to be big.
Okay. Nana, first of all, let me say good evening to your viewers, and to say good evening to Richard in the studio as well. And
before you continue, when politicians get into power, it's difficult to get you guys on studio.
No, that's
when you're a minority, I always get somebody in studio, and then my viewers will bash me.
It is service for God and country. As I speak to you, Nana, I am in Goso.
Wow.
Working towards the Planting for Food and Jobs project launch tomorrow.
Okay.
The president is going to be here tomorrow morning to launch the Planting for Food and Jobs project initiated by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture.
We're glad to talk to you, but
so I believe that is why I'm not in your studio. However, now it is heartwarming to see that the NDC, after battering them with over 1.5 million votes at the election in December 2016, are beginning to put their acts together and not fight each other so much, to rather play the role of an opposition party and opposing government and demanding accountability. It is a step in the right direction. It is their job as an opposition party to ask questions. However, that does not preclude the government of the day from also putting out the positives and the things that we think that we've done right in the last 100 days. First of all, Richard should tell us where and when we promised that we're going to pay contractors in 100 days. He should tell us when and where we promised to pay DKM customers in 100 days. I wonder where any government was going to find money from to go and pay for the inability of a microfinance company to pay its customers, I wonder what government will go and find, and where would they will find the money from paying such money. Nana, the issue of 100 days in government and the various achievements that we have chalked are things that the Ghanaian people themselves know and can see. I believe that the NDC at their press conference today did not dispute a single one of the 103 achievements that were outlined by the Vice President.
They refuted the Air France analogy that, you guys, chalked the deal. They did it. And, if it's about to take off, you cannot claim that achievement.
Dana, at least it is the 100 days of Ghana of Ghana that Air France has started operating in Ghana. Nobody heard in the last day of the dying Mahama administration that Air France had come into Ghana. It is within the year 2017 that Air France has started operating in Ghana. It points to the fact that it's the government that is committed to making sure that
Air France's intent was somewhere last year.
Yeah, on the 8th of August.
Air France's intent to start flying in Ghana was sometime last year. And I'm not sure that the previous government said, no, we won't allow you. And you guys came and said, well, we'll allow you. So if indeed it's an achievement, then it goes to them.
The issue is that under the watch of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, that airline has begun to operate in Ghana.
Okay.
That is the bottom line. We cannot pick and choose what success government should take and what successes the opposition should take.
Okay, that's one. And then the other one is the nursing, fees, the registration fees, which has always been 100 cedis and not, when you guys came into power.
Well, that is not true. The registration for nurses has been reduced. If you remember, by coming into government a couple of days, the Minister of Health has even put a hold on all of these things. A team was put together to look into these things. And then the hold was lifted, and that is how come you see the recruitment of nurses who have agitated for the last 2 years, people who have completed nursing training schools and were not employed by the previous government, have started at home, who are beginning to be employed into health institutions as we speak.
Okay, hold on. The issue, the issue of the nursing fee.
It's amazing that my brother would stick to the position that the Vice President mentioned, which was in error. Clearly, these nursing trainees have never paid 160 Ghana cedis, as was purported by the Vice President. That clearly was a misplaced information. I mean, the information is just wrong. And again, if my brother Perry talks about no demonstration by nurses, that also will become, unfortunately, to use the word palpable lie, because recently, as recent as February or thereabout, some nurses pitched camp at the Ministry of Health. Not just nurses, even we've had situations of teachers. So to create the impression that it's all been rosy, it cannot be true. And if I would ask Perry, if he still, moves around the markets like they were doing, to find out from traders if indeed there's been some transformation in their lifestyle. Recently, I watched on TV, where traders were being asked questions as to, whether business was booming. They even a lot indicated that it was better last year than now.
Well, Nana, I believe my brother Richard had a couple of minutes to talk even before I was raised on the phone line. So you should allow me to speak instead of interjecting every now and then.
Okay,
the bottom line is that, Nana, there's a new government in place. Fundamentally, we did not say that in 100 days we're going to achieve A, B, C, or D. Unlike during the 2008 elections when the Professor Mills administration talked about particular 100-day promises that were documented in their manifesto And then after 100 days, the people of Ghana held them to those promises to check whether they had achieved those promises. In our case, we as a party during the 2016 elections did not promise to do anything in 100 days. However, we have said that as a government, looking at our performance in the last 100 days, these are some of the initiatives that we have put together. These are some of the projects that have taken off. These are the things that we have presented to the Ghanaian people, and these are things that the Ghanaian people can feel in their lives. We have abolished excise duty on petroleum. We've abolished levies imposed on KIA by local authorities. We've abolished levies imposed on religious institutions by local authorities. We've abolished the 1% special import levy. We've abolished the 17.5 VAT on domestic airline tickets. We've abolished the 17.5 VAT on financial services, which created a lot of brouhaha during the last administration. We've abolished the 17.5 VAT on selected imported medicines. We've abolished the 5% NHIL and VAT on real estate sales. We've initiated a process to abolish duty on the importation of spare parts, reduce the national electrification scheme levy 5% to 3%. We reduce the public lighting levy from 5 to 2%, and I can go on and on and on and on and on. There are 103 of such things bordering on the economy, bordering on business development, food and agriculture. We are launching the Planting for Food and Jobs project tomorrow here. We've negotiated with the Ivorian government to agree and collaborate so that in a situation where we have different prices, where people smuggle cocoa across the border to Ivory Coast to go and sell will be a thing of the past. These two governments are collaborating so that we can present a single pricing regime to forestall our farmers carrying our cocoa across the border. We've recruited over 1,200 agri-extension officers to help our farmers in making sure that they engage in the right practices to improve their yield. And there are several of these things that we talk about we've achieved as a government in 100 days. As for the NDC and what they have to say, it is their right. They are an opposition party. They are right to criticize where they think they would criticize. That does not stop us as a government from telling the people of Ghana what we've been able to achieve in the last 100 days.
Very good. Let me give you 1 minute to rebut, and then we'll move to the conflict of interest.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, Perry can just talk and talk without evidence, without facts. But then the fact is that he's talking about engaging 2,000 aggregate station officers. When?
1,200.
1,200. When? Yeah. When was that done? You know, so you can. It's very easy to just say, oh, we've done this, we've done that, without evidence. We're demanding evidence from them. Apart from that, yes,
Richard, all the things that you have said in that studio, you have not provided any evidence.
Of course, mine is something that everybody knows about. You know, for instance, you talked about absolute free SHS. What has happened to that? That now we've been limited to only the first years. Okay, we have about 1.2.
But that's a very unfair criticism.
Why? Why is it unfair?
Because you see, I'm a board member of Akufo-Addo, right?
Yes.
And there are like 12, 20 students there who are supposedly on the continuous thingy. And they only get like 40 CDs or 50 CDs, and that was it. So if a government comes in and say, okay, first years are going to go free, next year it's a major improvement for what was before.
Yeah, but now, why don't you then make that very clear from the onset? You see, it becomes a propaganda or a political spin when you say, okay, I'm going to do it this way, or I'm going to give you free food. And then when the time comes, say, look, it's just 1 meal a day. You know, it's mass of deception. It's mass of dishonesty. And you see, the people of Ghana want to trust their governments, those that will surrender our mandates too. You know, Nana Akufo-Addo talked about the rule of
Nana,
law.
what is more dishonest than a government that said that the opposition could not implement the free SHS, for instance, and then turn around to say they would implement it and ended up paying for it?
Well, he's also doing the same interjection that he accused me of. But then, anyway, the NDC talked of what? They talked of progressively free, because we see that as being realistic in the remit of the finances that we have as a nation. You know, but then if you
know, but progressively free was just selected. Every school, maybe like 12 or 20 students were progressively freely educated.
Whatever it is, it's still, by the definition, fits within the confines of that situation.
No, as for that, I beg
well,
to differ.
Well, you could differ. You could disagree. But what I'm saying is that we mustn't have a situation where politicians will just promise for the sake of power, knowing too well that they will not be able to deliver. And that is why I feel so sad and disheartened that the vice president, you know, will continue to rant on as he did in opposition.
Richard, before I even bring Perry in, here's a comparison. Now, the NDC says, I'll do progressively free.
Yes.
And so I take my school, Akwamumai Secondary School, and I think like 28 students or so are progressive. Of all the schools, there were like 28 students who are progressively
that really cannot be the case.
It's a small number. I mean, the school is like 2,600 students.
Yes.
And I tell you, there's just a drop in the ocean. Let me give you.
We
are enjoying progressively free.
No, we don't have.
The MPP now says, I'll give you free education, but then the whole first year get it. I think, you know, I won't bring that. I'm just saying that let's bring the politics out.
Of course.
And you promise to be Ghanaian.
I promise to be Ghanaian, and I'm doing exactly that. You know, let's situate it within the remit of logic. We said progressively free. And all those, you know, who were in...
it was more I think it was more selective.
It was not
selectively free.
No. It wasn't selectively free.
But the whole school was not enjoying it.
I don't get it. I don't know. If what you're saying is true, then it's a peculiar problem with the school in your area.
It was all the schools.
But of course,
there are certain students who enjoy it.
I know too well that, for instance, Kita Secondary School in my constituency and all other secondary schools, you know,
all the students benefited.
They all benefited the same amount. You know, they all benefited.
All the students.
Of course, they all benefited the same amount. Honestly,
well,
you see it. They all benefited the same amount. So it cannot be a situation where some students were selected and some were left out. In fact, it started with day students, for instance, okay, and then it was supposed to move on, taking off all the bills that they were paying. But you see, I would not want us to dwell too much on that.
Let's move on strictly to conflict of interest. Yes.
The issue is simple, that apart from what the NDC has to do when they put the free SHS and turn around to want to embrace it. In 100 days, the first budget of Nana Akufo-Addo, President of Ghana, has allocated 400 million Ghana cedis in the 2017 budget to fund free SHS beginning September 2017 for first year entrance.
400 million.
The policy of the new party and the policy of the government of Nana Akufo-Addo. As to how we go about it and the nuances of it, I don't think it's a matter of debate between us and Richard.
Okay, let's quickly move to conflict of interest.
But before we move to that realm, just to remind my brother Perry Okujeto that look, there was nothing like Kaya tax, so that was another deception, and there was nothing like religious bodies. You know, religious organizations paying some tax and all that. These are figmentations of their own minds. You know,
wasn't the local government taking some?
Of course, local government regulations.
Levy
and so there are some levies that are paid.
That is
market toll. No, you see, we had market tolls, you know, and you can't exclude kayayes from the market women who also are trading within the market centers. That was why some market women said, if you're going to ask kayayes, to stop paying, was it 50 pesos on daily basis, then you must ensure that they also, you take off the, whatever they also pay in terms of tolls, which the government knew it cannot do, because if it does that, it's going to collapse the district assemblies, which it is already, robbing of cash. Why do I say it's robbing the district assemblies of cash? Clearly, the matter that is taking us to court, where the DACF, the District Assemblies Common Fund, has been slashed drastically.
I know you mentioned about it. Let's do conflict of interest because of
conflict of interest. We'll come to that. But you know what? Do you know that Parliament, when we were expected to have actually approved the formula for the District Assemblies Common Fund for monies to be released to the districts, that has not been done on purpose, deliberately. The minority leader insisted that bring the formula for us to actually approve. And the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs played the usual game. Today, as we sit here, the district assemblies do not have monies that they were expecting in order to run, especially when there's going to be a big cut, and which in itself is a breach of law. So this government, obviously within 3 months, has broken too many laws of Ghana. And so, and what brought them into office was this very constitution, the laws of Ghana.
Isn't this reach coming from Richard Kwasiga, who is a member of the NDC? The NDC, during the last administration, put the District Assembly's Common Fund, supposed to be a statutory fund, in 4 quarters.
That is wrong. It's only 1 quarter that is left.
As we speak, the budget has been read, the appropriation has been. The Ministry of Finance is going to begin disbursement of these funds to district assemblies and other district bodies. British and the NEC should speak and look at how governance is executed and stop trying to put and trying to criticize government at every opportunity. Of course, like I said earlier, it is their right to criticize. In opposition, you oppose. So it is their right to criticize. However, it does not stop the government from also touting its achievement. And a lot has been achieved in the last 100 days, and a lot more will be achieved moving forward this year and into the next year by the Akufo-Addo-led administration.
Perry, let me come back to this bond thing. So the finance minister raised a bond of, 13. And one of the major players or major guys who shows interest happens to come from the enterprise group, Mr. Trevgan, who is very linked to people in government. Everybody's just saying that, listen, it's just too close for comfort. I mean, if the shoe was on the other foot, I'm sure the NPP would have said, hey, no, this is friends and family business, and therefore we're not going to have it.
Nana, did enterprise group buy any bonds?
Not necessarily, but it's
enterprise group has not bought any bonds from Ghana government. What we have is an organization that has been engaged and been doing business with the government of Ghana over a period. This organization is not new, and they have bought our bonds in the last administration, and they are buying bonds today. This is an organization that manages over $840 billion worth of funds across the world. It's an organization with an enviable track record. It is an organization that has invested in our economy before and have continued to invest in our economy. What has been done recently is the issuance of CD bonds that has been to restructure our debt. This a free hand as government to have some fiscal space in order to be able to reorganize our debt payment schedules, as well as reorganize our fiscal space. That is the bottom line of what this is. Enterprise Group has not been involved in any of these transactions whatsoever. If the NDC and Richard have a problem with how the bonds were issued, there are ways of going about asking questions about this deal. Rather than wanting to do propaganda and doing some name calling and trying to impugn some wrongdoing with particular people.
Let me bring
the Attorney General that he mentioned, I don't think the Attorney General went to Ghana. So where is the conflict of interest if the Attorney General went for Enterprise Group before? The Enterprise Group has not been involved in this, and I don't see why they are trying so hard to try and tie all of us to this issue. One thing we should be aware of is that the currency that has continued for several months, even after borrowing over $37 billion into this economy, the currency has begun to stabilize just by the striking of one deal. This tells you that this is a competent management team that is in charge of our economy and is going to make sure that
Perry, hold on. Let me bring Richard in here.
Yeah,
so that
thank you very much.
Concerns.
Thank you very much. I think that even we have a law in Ghana today that talks about politically exposed people, where it is extends to your friends, your family, your wife, children, and etc. You know, and clearly, the finance minister is a friend to Honorable Trevgan, who is a director of the Templeton Investment Limited, which actually issue this.
Can you ask
please allow me. Perry, please.
Can prove Trevor's link.
Perry, this is unfair. This is unfair.
Okay, let him land.
Okay. Now, this evening on CTFM, the Attorney General confirmed that yes, Honorable Trevor is a friend, and that indeed he also happened to be a director of Enterprise Group. Is it not the case that the wife of the finance minister is a director at Enterprise Group? Is it not the case that his bosom friend, Mr. Kaligajepo, is a director in Enterprise Group? Is it not the case that Madame Gloria Akufo herself was with Enterprise Group until the first day of April, which is April Fool's Day? And as to whether she genuinely resigned is another matter. You know, and is it not the case that these people are all connected in one way or the other? And if we have a law that talks about politically exposed people, you know, to the extent that every family, I mean, your relations and etc.
But I mean, she also explained that even though they come under a group, they are all limited liability companies. Limited
liability companies, you know, within an umbrella. Okay?
Yeah.
Enterprise Group. Okay, so they are, it's like a web, they are intertwined. All these groups and all the people that are connected to it definitely will have an interest in a certain direction, and that is where we think that the finance minister should have made some of these connections of his public during his vetting. You know, some members of the minority tried to actually deep down into the finance minister's background, but they were obviously limited by the majority that virtually use a majoritarian approach, as it were, you know, to push all these things through and cover the other members of the appointment committee from really probing effectively. You know, so these things are coming home to roost. It's clear that there's conflict of interest. And again, what is so worrying now is the disregard of our laws, because it is clearly spelled in our laws that this should have come to Parliament.
Perry, this law did not go to Parliament. Is there any breach?
Well, if there are issues about this going to Parliament, I think these are issues that can be raised and appropriately dealt with.
It's
However,
not as if there is no if here. The law is clear.
The issue is that the company that has invested in Ghana is called Franklin Templeton Investment, not Enterprise Group.
No, I didn't say Enterprise.
The fund manager that brokered this deal is called Michael Hastings, and this is someone who has done this kind of thing across the world and has a good reputation for it. I don't know why Richard and his people are trying so hard to pull in Enterprise Group, to pull in Trevor, and to pull in the Attorney General and
well, some of the issues are saying
if they have any proof whatsoever that something wrong has been done, I believe that we are a nation of laws. They should initiate some action that would unravel any wrongdoing if there is, apart from just shouting on the rooftops and trying to blame people for crimes that they have not committed.
Well, Perry, I think, eyebrows have been raised that, Trevor and Templeton are, very close to the finance minister. He floats money, sets a particular, interest rate, maybe favorable or not, and then his friends comes in to buy. I mean,
within the day.
No, I don't think anybody's saying it's wrong, but questions are being asked.
The last time we went for a bond deal like this was under Finance Minister Tekwe. Mm-hmm. If you look at the figures with that transaction, it was a dollar bond. This is a CD denominated bond. This was at 19.75. If you calculate how much Mr. Tekwe's bonds at the dollar rate were, they are more than 20%. So that deal cannot be better than this.
Is it about the deal being better or not? But even that, what he raised is very questionable.
Seconds.
But the issue
is very questionable because this is an American organization, an American company that is bringing in some virtual capital.
Okay, gentlemen, let me say thank you, but I'm sure this issue will be discussed further to find out indeed if something went wrong or if everything is above board. But thank you very much, Perry, and thank you very much, Richard, for that. And let me say a big thank you to the Reverend Professor Cephas Omenyo, who is the moderator of the Presby Church. His first Sunday ever, Easter Sunday, he was with us at the Dumasa to deliver a sermon, which was a great, great honor. So to the Reverend Dr. Cephas Omenyo, moderator of the Presby Church, on behalf of Reverend Tete Jukum and myself and the whole of the Dumasa, we say thank you very much. Also to Ochosim Senyampo Pesehini, who came to us and the people of Ketayo, MP saying, hello to you. So thank you very much, and tomorrow we'll be back to do this all again. Thank you.